これ以上無様さらす気か。さあ兄弟、久世剣能界の人間なら作法は知っていますよね。兄貴の好きなけじめです。男見せてください。
Hello again, everyone. This is Umbra, Lord of the Rees, Master of Autism, and Scourge of Chicken Tendies. For those returning, I thank you for your continued support, and for those new to the channel, I hope to earn your likes and subscriptions as I continue to apply weaponized autism to the state of gaming and what we can expect. The purpose of this series of Thinking on a Razor's Edge as a video series is not to engage in wild speculation, but to apply philosophical razors to situations where information is scarce or contradictory. In an attempt to fight misinformation, disinformation, and all those rather nasty buzzwords that have us at each other's throats, while still being able to make sound, reasonable predictions of situations with limited or contradicting information. In my last video, I mentioned the science suggested a power struggle within PlayStation between the California and American sides. Now we have a very interesting development in the announcement of dual CEOs. The one thing we know about corporations is that they lie all the time. Trusting anything they have to say at face value is a moronic decision at best, a dented head Wojak mentality that is easily abused by sociopathic midwits, also known as your average corpo. Since we cannot trust the multi-billion-dollar corporation to be honest, let's take a look between the lines. So, what actually happened? Jim Ryan announced his retirement last year in September, stating he would continue as the head of Sony Interactive Entertainment. His replacement was to be decided by Hiroki Totoki, the representative corporate executive officer of Sony Group. For those not in the know, a representative corporate executive officer is the most senior executive in charge of manning a corporation registered in Japan. The position is actually regulated by the Companies Act of Japan and is required for joint stock companies incorporated in Japan. The representative director is responsible for overseeing the overall management of the company and is accountable to the shareholders in the board of directors. Think of it like a CEO of CEOs. It would not be wrong to call him Mr. Sony himself. The fact that someone so high level would take over should raise some eyebrows, as his responsibilities and workload extend over all of Sony, not just the video game business. This is a clear sign the main offices of the entire Sony group spanning the massive Keiretsu organization have taken a special interest in this situation. For those not in the know, a Keiretsu is essentially a corporation so vast and diversified, it basically becomes its own independent economy. Sony even owns its own bank and has assets that amount to around $205 billion. That's more than the entire GDP of Algeria. To get into how unfathomably vast Sony is would take an entire multi-part video to break down. For now, I must restrain my autism and keep it to this simple explanation. Sony is basically an entire independent country, And the guy in charge of it all personally took over during the transition period. That's like the President of the United States personally taking control of a single state. An oversimplistic analogy, I suppose, missing some key specifics about American political system, of course, but scale-wise, it works. That's an awful lot of focus, but makes sense when you consider that in 2022, Sony Interactive Entertainment was responsible for 1/3 of Sony Group's entire revenue. The day the last earnings report dropped, Sony announced not a replacement of Jim Ryan, but 2 entire new CEO roles, with one, CEO Hideaki Nishino, in charge of console hardware, technology, accessories, PlayStation Network, and, most importantly, third-party relations. Meanwhile, CEO Herman Hulst is in charge of PlayStation Studios. Yes, just PlayStation Studios. Yes, the same responsibilities he already had. The question becomes, what does it mean? Well, let's consider something. Back when Jim Ryan first announced his retirement, there were a number of names being tossed around by the publications and trades within the industry, the most serious of which were Shuhei Yoshida and Herman Hulst. Hideaki was not mentioned much publicly prior to the sudden event. That leaves the question of why. Oftentimes, there will be a trial run for whomever was planning to be next in line. Considering that Mr. Sony himself was supposed to be the representative director of the entire Sony empire, it's safe to assume he had his hands full. More likely than not, April was Herman Hulst's trial run. We all know what happened between the Stellar Blade censorship debacle, the Helldivers 2 debacle, and tumbling stocks before an earnings call. It's clear there was trouble. The fact that the Helldivers 2 situation was backtracked so abruptly but also haphazardly, and as of the writing of this, the nations without PSN are still banned from purchasing Helldivers 2, speaks to someone's genitals being put in a vice. The creation of 2 CEOs seems to be something akin to a window seat. Herman Hulst's promotion appears to be in name only, a subtle slight at his ability to lead. With him helming only the shrinking first-party studios, I would not be surprised to see the studios shuttered completely and Herman himself ousted within the next few years, as Sony has expressed a change in focus away from exclusives to a more multi-platform approach. Notably, the ability to work with third parties was specifically kneecapped for Herman Hulst, as this would impact his control over games developed by third-party studios, which, if anyone has been paying attention, has been the cause of consternation with the amount of lopsided censorship I went over in my first video. There is a long list of games that have been either neutered or completely cancelled due to PlayStation's heavy-handed censorship, much of it being third-party published by Sony or published externally and just trying to get on the console. It's been going on for a while, but ramped up significantly with the move of PlayStation from Japan to California. I will also add lopsidedly more strictly applied to Asian studios. In the last video, I spoke about a shadow conflict between Japan and California over control of cultural products. Looking on LinkedIn, Hideaki has a long history, a lifelong Sony employee that has been trained in Tokyo and moved between the two sides repeatedly. His tenure at his previous role lasted almost 8 years, which stands out since previous positions he held lasted around 3 years at most. This suggests that he was actually possibly being groomed to take over Sony Interactive Entertainment, and he was stifled for several years. The fact that Hiroki Totoki himself took direct control and then promoted someone who was not even originally in the conversation in the industry trades speaks to an overthrow of the power dynamic. I would not be surprised if Herman is now wearing a prosthetic pinky. So, what can we expect? I don't have a crystal ball, so I can't say anything with 100% accuracy, but given the trajectory of the way things are going, and given what information I've been able to pick up, I think we will be seeing a pivot towards less censored and more Eastern-focused games. I expect company policy to move back towards the early 2010s, and we will see further divestment from DEI initiatives. Japan has been rejecting it, and with them, the current most culturally popular and powerful IPs in gaming will likely see a renewed focus. With the impending games industry crash, the writing is on the wall, and like before, I believe Japan will capitalize and dominate. I hope this video has been informative for you as we move into an uncertain future. My information is based on some research and extrapolating those points to the most likely conclusion. If you disagree, I want to hear your points. I'm one of those rare people that likes to be proven wrong. Please bounce into the comments. I want to hear as many points of view on this as possible. If you think I earned it, please like and subscribe. YouTube hates new channels, and I need every possible bit of support I can get. Share this video too, I really appreciate it, since I care more about getting these ideas and thoughts out more than sponsorship money or internet fame. Please have a wonderful day, and most importantly, remember, passion is nothing to be ashamed of.